Hey, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol. And like we always say, all season long. But again, like I've been saying in these past couple of weeks, the season came to an abrupt end. Us skiers, us ski patrollers had to pack our bags and leave the mountain and try to figure out what was going on with this COVID-19 nasty virus that kind of inflicted chaos on all of us. And like I always say, patrollers are resilient. Patrollers very, very, very not so very often. They don't just pack their bags, go home, and wait till it snows again. Many times, patrollers are involved in off-season training. They get involved in community events. They get involved in providing EMS care for bike races and running races and all kinds of events over the summer. And it did not surprise me that in the midst of this COVID-19 virus, that I've heard stories and found out that patrollers have stepped up all over the country, whether you're in the EMS care business or you're in the healthcare business or what. Patrollers are stepping up and doing their part to fight this nasty fight. I'm here in the worldwide headquarters of Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol in Frederick, Maryland, and we're catching up today with Mike Most. Mike Most is a ski patroller from Magic Mountain, which is up in Londonderry, Vermont. And Mike, before we get started here, the word on the street is you're a killer skier. You may be the best on the mountain. Is that right?
No, I doubt that's true. In fact, I'm sure that is not true.
My spies up there said you are the man. So.
Well, that's nice to hear, but I ski with a lot of really fantastic skiers, so I definitely do not consider myself the king of the mountain there.
As long as you dust Justin Guth, just him a couple times, and we'll keep it even. Is that good?
Yeah, I would say on a good day, I could maybe keep up with him.
No. Don't say that to Justin. His head's big enough, okay? But anyway, getting into how you relate to this COVID-19 nasty virus, you're a healthcare provider. You work in a hospital, a doctor. And again, we talked about the season just came to like March 15th or March 13th. They just slammed the doors. How has your life changed walking into the hospital now, knowing that you have to deal with this virus and a lot of the unknowns and all that?
Well, like a lot of people in my community, a lot of us have sort of stepped outside our normal practice and have started doing stuff that we've either never done before, or in my case, I haven't done for a pretty long time. So I got a call from a good friend of mine who's a trauma surgeon at Morristown, and he said, hey, do you think you could manage ventilators and take care of ICU patients? And I said, it's been a few years, but if I follow you around for a couple of days, I think I could pick it back up. And that's sort of where that's how it happened.
So you're an ER doctor. That's your main deal, right?
No, I'm actually a general surgeon.
A general surgeon. Okay.
Yeah.
So how was that a culture shock that you had to kind of give that up, give your passion up, and move to the other side, I guess?
No, I mean, not really. I have a pretty strong background in trauma surgery. My residency training was very heavy in both trauma and critical care medicine. We did a lot of rotations in the ICU. We did a lot of critical care medicine. We did trauma ICU. We did burn ICU. So I spent a lot of time in the intensive care unit as a resident, and even after residency, I spent a lot of time in the military, and basically that was trauma surgery and trauma critical care as well. So. But it's been a few years, and this is very different than managing trauma patients.
I bet, especially the trauma out on the ski hill, where most of them are closed injuries, and you just put a quick splint up or put a Band-Aid on them and drag them down the mountain.
Yeah, most trauma, inside the United States these days, unless you live in a very heavily populated metropolitan area where the crime rate is very high, most of the trauma is what we call blunt trauma or non-penetrating trauma, and most of that trauma is non-operative management in the intensive care unit, and so on and so forth. That's actually one of the reasons why I didn't become a trauma surgeon, was because I didn't want to live in a rough neighborhood or work in a rough neighborhood, but I also wanted to operate. And unfortunately, or fortunately, trauma surgeons in rural areas really don't operate that much because most of traumas become non-operative in these areas. So
now, how much? I would have to admit, for me anyway, I had heard a little bit about the virus, and I guess me, like the other millions of people out there, thought, it's just the flu, pretty bad case of the flu and the whole bit, and we'll get over it, no big deal. But how much did you know, being on the inside in the healthcare industry, how much did you know about the COVID-19 virus before it was declared a pandemic?
Not a whole lot. When my friend gave me a call and asked me to step up, he called me, I think, on a Thursday, and I said I'll be there Monday morning. And I spent that whole weekend basically reading whatever I could find on it, and trying to educate myself as much as I can. And and what I learned about it is that the overwhelming majority of us, it is a very bad flu, and God willing, that's all it will ever be. But for a certain percentage of the population, it's pretty deadly. And even regular flu can be deadly for a certain percentage of the population. The problem with this virus is that it's so virulent, meaning that it's so easy to catch, it's so easy to pass from one person to another, that rather than spreading out this whole pandemic over an 8 to 9 month flu season like the regular flu, this is now going to be over a 2 to 3 month season. So the number of patients all presenting with major issues at any given time is significantly higher than we typically see with regular flu.
Now, like I kind of mentioned a little bit before, we had a pretty tough winter. We fought the elements, we fought the no snow, then we got snow late, and we're just starting to have a whole bunch of fun. Door slams. But we walk out of this with, I don't know what's going on. We'll figure it out. Just follow what the people are telling us and we'll be okay. You're having a tough spring, probably tougher than most. So talk about that transition. The tough part of the ski season, that's a fun tough. Now you're in the serious stuff, and that's got to be emotionally draining for somebody experienced as you.
Well, there's a lot of things that are emotionally draining. Having the children at home, doing all the home learning, being cooped up in the house is emotionally draining for everybody. I am fortunate that I don't have to be cooped up in the house all week long. I spend 5 or 6 days in the hospital, so I still at least have a job to go to. A lot of us aren't really getting paid for what we're doing, but at the very least, we have some place to go to work, to do our part, and for the most part, I know it's very appreciated by everybody. And me for my part, I'm kind of a small part. I as an ICU attending, I'm sitting behind a desk, I'm making rounds, I'm barking orders, but really the people that are doing the hard work are the nurses, the nursing assistants. They're the ones that are actually going in these rooms with these very sick patients, multiple times for hours. They really deserve most of the credit. The EMS crews also, they are the people that are most exposed and most at risk. I have incredible equipment backing me up. I have these full respirator suits that I wear anytime I'm near somebody who's sick. The EMS crews don't have that luxury. All they have are a pair of glasses and an N95 mask.
We have talked to some EMS people, Chris Toda, fellow patroller up at Magic, and and we're finding out that they're walking. They don't know if they're even protected enough when they go into this mess, and so you got to take your hat off to those guys. We've talked to some other patrollers that are really not in the EMS healthcare other than patrolling, and they're making face shields and collecting goggles for docs program and stuff like that. So it's pretty amazing, and to hear those guys stepping up, and it's unbelievable to me that you would step away from what your expert is, go to another side and say, we all got to do our part.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about this country is that people step up, they do their part, whatever they can. Not everybody can make it to the front lines, and the people that can't, they contribute in other ways. And I mean, that's one of the things I love about this country. It's one of the things I love about volunteers. Patrollers for the most part are volunteers, and volunteers are just, they don't sit at home and
Right.
weather the storm. They get up and they say, what can I do? And that's one of the things I love about this group.
Now, just transitioning from that, how does your ski patrol experiences and knowledge of the OEC and all that, are you able to transition some of that skill set into what you're doing now? Maybe it's bedside manner, maybe it's dealing with the group of people or whatever.
Not so much the skills. What I have found to be most challenging about doing this is not necessarily relearning intensive care medicine. That kind of stuff has always interested me, and I've sort of kept up with that. The really difficult part, and I think the part that maybe a lot of people don't really quite understand, is that when these patients get very sick and they come into the hospital, they are alone. They are in a room that is closed off. The nurses are not coming in every hour or every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes. They're coming in once every 4 hours.
Wow.
Family members of these patients have zero visitation rights. We don't allow any visitation. So families are at home simply waiting for maybe, if they're lucky, one phone call a day that they get either from the nurse or from myself,
Right.
to give them an update on how their family member's doing. And I think that's, having those conversations have been challenging. Challenging. And those interpersonal skills are really what have helped me quite a bit.
That's interesting you said that, because that's a perspective I don't think very many people really like. When you said they're isolated for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, I've never heard that or seen that on the TV reports, and that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't know what every hospital's doing. I know what my hospital's doing, and they really, our leadership at our hospital, I have to give them a lot of credit. They have been on the ball with getting things ready. We have turned regular hospital floors into intensive care units that were never designed to be intensive care units, and the people that are on those floors, I mean, they are making it work, and it's really quite impressive. But it's hard talking to these family members every day because they have no idea what's happening.
Right.
They don't get to speak to their family members because many of these patients are on ventilators, so they can't talk.
Right.
Every once in a while, we just actually acquired a whole bunch of iPads, so we are trying to do these FaceTime things with the family members. I think that's very appreciated. But you can, when I talk to these patients' families, I mean, you can just feel through the phone how difficult it is for them to not be able to visit, to not know what's going on, to not be able to get multiple or frequent updates during the day. It's very, very hard. And I don't think that really has been in the news.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows that, lots of people are sick, lots of people are on ventilators, we're running out of ventilators, we need all these ventilators, but I don't think people have really had a chance to understand just what it's like to have a family member who's in a hospital like this on a ventilator. They don't get to see them for weeks at a time.
Right.
And the ones that do pass away, they never get to see them. They get
they never get to say goodbye or whatever. Wow, that's crazy.
No, I have a little bit of latitude to on occasion bring a family member in if I know someone's close to passing. I have some latitude to bring that family member in. We teach them how to don and doff the protective equipment and where to step, where not to step. And, I've done that a couple of times. But, I also have patients that are younger, that have young children, and the spouse doesn't want to come in because they don't want to get sick, because who's going to take care of their child? I mean, I have a case like that right now, which is just absolutely heartbreaking.
Now I mean, you mentioned your 5-6 days a week. You got to be, that's nonstop. You got to be exhausted and probably mentally exhausted, because you're an emotional roller coaster, it seems like.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's you know, they're 12-hour shifts usually. I mean, we try to go 7 to 7, and you know, we try to do. I try to do at least 5 or 6 shifts a week, just if for nothing else than to help out. I mean, if I do any less than that, it's kind of hard, because so much can happen in a day that you're not there.
Right.
And then you come in 48 hours later, and you could have a unit that's got 4 new patients. You could have things that have astronomically changed with the patients that you knew a day and a half ago that are now in a completely different place, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. So, you know, for me, I'd rather be there and be following along as close as I can, because the better I know the patients, the better I'm able to make minor changes throughout the day.
Folks, we're talking with Michael Yost here, a doctor in New Jersey that's in the hospital on the front lines dealing with this nasty COVID-19 virus. And just another example how patrollers are able to be versatile enough to give up, basically walk away from your surgical practice and adjust and adapt to another part of the healthcare. And again, we talk about this all the time on our show over the last 4 or 5 years, that patrollers are versatile, and we're part of a big family. And the people out there listening to you, Mike, they're tipping their hat. I can tell you that. And folks, if you'd like to get involved in this fraternity, not that you have to in a crisis jump into the hospital or anything like that, but you know, take your game to another level and become a member of the National Ski Patrol, all you have to do is now you can't do it right now because we're all shut down. But if you pick up the phone and give your local mountain a call, and if you call Magic Mountain, you can talk to Andy Belcher, who's the patrol director up there. Tell them what you want to do, want to get involved, and they'll direct you in the right way. If you can't get a hold of anybody, because I think Andy's out west working in the ambulance or whatever, just log on to www.nsp.org, and the folks out in Lakewood, Colorado, in the national office, like Megan Mosinski and Beckett Stokes, they'll lead you, they'll push you in the right direction. Now, Michael, let's go the other way. I asked you if you could transition your ski patrol skills and stuff like that to what you're doing now. Can you take this new experience that you're going through and transition that to ski patrol in terms of bedside manner, or understanding now when you're working on a small kid who's crying on the slopes and mom's saying, is he all right? Is he going to make it? Is he all right? Is his foot going to be okay?
Yeah, you know, when you're interacting with patients frequently, you're always learning how to speak better, how to talk better, how to relate to people of different ages, different backgrounds. So we have an expression in medicine, especially in surgery. You know, we never stop being students. We are constantly learning. We are always learning new things. I'm very involved in teaching our residents at our teaching program, and I have to say that as much as I teach my residents, I learn just as much from my residents. And it can be medicine, it can be, you know, surgical techniques that maybe they learned from one of my colleagues that I didn't know, and I'm picking things up. So, you know, it's always a learning environment, and we always bring things. There's always things that I bring from my medical practice to the slopes, from the slopes back to the medical practice. It's all interrelated. And
well, I can guarantee you one thing. I don't know if you get involved in any of the OEC training or anything like that, but next year when you go back to your OEC refresher, everybody will be well versed on taking the gloves off right, putting the mask on right, and utilizing the PPEs that we deal with a lot of times as ski patrollers. Is that right?
Yeah. So I am involved actually with our OEC program. I actually teach our OEC class for the last 2 years. And,
oh wow, good.
Assuming Andy still wants me back, you know, I'll continue to do it this year also. So
well, we're supposed to talk to Andy tomorrow, and I'll make sure he keeps you in the loop. How about that? Is that good?
Yeah, Andy and I, you know, we talk a lot. We stay in touch. We're always talking even on the off season.
Well, I guess the last question I have is, when we get back to normal, I don't know if normal will ever be normal again, whatever that means. Just talk about how you think that the patrollers and us of a society are going to learn from this pandemic that we're going through today.
Well, I think that as patrollers, we spend a lot of time taking care of trauma. We don't really spend much of any time thinking about infectious diseases and things like that. And I think that as we move forward, one thing I'm pretty certain of is this pandemic is going to change things for a long time, maybe even forever. Right. So I'm sure that that dealing with things like infectious diseases and things like that will become an integral part of OEC moving forward. And I think it's something that we'll always keep in the back of our minds. I don't think COVID-19 is going away. I think this is something that's going to be around for a while. I think we'll eventually have a vaccine. But I think it's something that we're going to have to, be very familiar with, just like the flu. And I think it's something that every patroller is going to need to think about anytime he's taking care of a patient who's coughing, who's sneezing, who's sick in any way. It may be the flu, it may be COVID. And we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect our patients. And more than that, we have to educate our patients how to protect themselves and protect their family members. So, we're all part of that process.
That's very interesting you said that, because I know now if I sneeze or somebody sneezes, somebody looks around and you got it. I mean, that's like the common answer now. No, I'm good.
You get that look.
Yeah, the other thing too is this couldn't come at a worse time with the pollen in the air and all the allergies out there. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So
well, it's definitely a trying time, but I think we're going to get through it. I think the CDC and the government is going to find a way to bring back things to as normal as they can possibly return to. We'll survive this. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna move on. I'm looking forward to skiing again next season. I can't wait.
Well, I can't wait because I didn't get a whole lot of powder skiing in, and my son goes to St. Michael's College up in Burlington. And we, a lot of guys I know that come and visit Magic Mountain are saying you got to get down there. You got to get down. We actually drove by Magic Mountain on the way to somewhere skiing, and I'm like, wow, I got to ski that next year. I'm heading up there. So
you need to come to Magic on a powder day. There's no other place like it in Vermont.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that, and everyone goes, "You won't believe the fun you'll have." So yeah. I'm kind of waiting for that. Again, hey, Michael, we really appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. It's probably 20 minutes. You could have been taking a nap and getting rested up for tomorrow, but we really appreciate what you're doing out there on the front lines. And again, folks, if you're anybody out there, if you're a patrol or anybody out there, there's a way to get involved. Hey, just call somebody, find a way to get involved if you can, so we all can unite together and get rid of this nasty virus and experience some powder here in about 4 or 5 months. Again, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, and thanks for tuning in for this special COVID-19 special edition number 4. Again, Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol. I'll see you at a mountain near you.